Knowing the dynamic method binding, that get area from the shape, my shape, will never be used because always we are going to assign circle or rectangle in application. The my shape itself will never be used. Then how about taking out the get area, because dynamic method binding always either from my circle or my rectangle will be used. So what if I take this out from my shape? Then we have error, so cannot resolve the method. So what is happening here is the binding issue. So we need to understand what binding is. So binding is whenever you use a name like a method name or variable name, we need to know where the definition is. So variable case, if I use n is 20, I should have defined the variable n first. Then this n is bound to a variable declaration there. So method, the same thing. Whenever you use a method call, the method, the definition should be bound. So in binding methods, we have two phases of binding. First one is called static binding at compile time. Another one is called the dynamic binding, which we studied in the previous video, at runtime. So in Java program, two bindings happens. When the program gets compiled, the static binding happens. Static binding is the definition of the method should be first search at current and the current class. The same class with the variable is being used. So here variable s1 is used in static binding at compile time. What compiler looks for is a get area method in s1 class, which is my shape class. But in my shape class I have commented out, so that's why we have error. If not found in the current class, then it searches for its parent class. So a parent of my shape is there get area. If there, it is used. So it's not there, so we have a compile error. So that is a static binding issue. Dynamic binding is the one I explained in the previous video, not by the type of S1, but by the type of the value in S1. So once this is compiled, at runtime dynamic binding happens, but before you run the program, it should get compiled. So at compile time, static binding used. So in S1, my shape class needs a get area, which is actually never used though, but simply to avoid a compile error, we need to have that one. So here we find that this is not very cool looking one. This one is never used, but we need the get area because of a static binding at compile time. To fix this one, Java language has something called the abstract method. So we define this method as abstract. Then we do not give the implementation of the method. So we just skip all of those and then finish it right away. So that's called the abstract method. Whenever you have at least one abstract method, the whole class should be abstract. That's required in Java, like that. So abstract class is at least one of the methods is abstract. Abstract means we do not define the body of the method because it's not used. But why do we have abstract classes? To avoid static binding at compile time. Now at compile time, as we have s1.getArea, compiler looks for getArea if it's existing in s1 class, which is my shape type or not. In my shape, I have a getArea abstract. Compiler does not care whether it has a body of the method or not, implementation or not. Simply compiler identifies get area is there, so compiler is totally satisfied that. And then at runtime, now dynamic binding happens. So abstract method is for static binding issue where at that time the implementation of the method is not defined like my shape. Then abstract method is where you can use that one. And then class requirement, if class has an abstract method, the class should be designed as an abstract class. Then in abstract class, one of the property of abstract class, you cannot create the object out of that. So my shape S2, I cannot do new. New is to create an object out of that. Right? So I cannot create the object out of a abstract class. What it says is that my shape is abstract, so it cannot instantiate it. The instance is the same as object. Instantiated means creating object. So abstract class, you cannot create object, but you can define a reference of a abstract class. Then you can now assign its a child, a real class, child class object into the variable. So that is a abstract method, abstract class, and the static binding issues in Java programming.